So for those of you wanting to get started in visual effects, there's several things I would take into consideration before starting. If I could go back, I wish I would have had this information because it would have allowed me to better achieve the goals that I have in the visual effects industry. If you don't know much about visual effects, the industry is divided into several different parts. Especially when you get up into the big studios, there are people who have jobs that are designed just for a very specific part of a much larger task. For example, on the new Harry Potter movie, there are 3D characters that these visual effects houses are making, and the sole job of one person is often just to animate the eyebrows. These are very specific jobs that these visual effects artists have, and they all work together as one big team. And the reason that the jobs are so specific is because these effects require so much work, and it would be difficult or impossible for one person to handle more than one specific task. So if I could go back, I would recommend that you test out different types of visual effects and motion graphics. For those of you who don't know, there's a difference between visual effects and motion graphics in the sense that visual effects is more geared towards real life footage, and it's when you're taking a real life plate of something and manipulating it in a way to achieve a certain effect on the computer. Motion graphics often does not include anything that's real. It's all done on the computer. Often you see these in commercials, and motion graphics is great for those of you who want to be completely independent and work on yourself. So last year when Zach and I went on our road trip, we ran into a lot of kids who were wanting to get involved in film, but they didn't have friends who were as motivated as they were. So they were concerned about not being able to get started on projects because they didn't have friends to help them out. And for all of those students, I recommended that they get started in motion graphics because motion graphics is something that you can do on your own. You don't need other people to do it. And you can express creativity through motion graphic projects. Visual effects, on the other hand, is a lot more intensive in terms of the involvement that other people have. For visual effects, you're often communicating with the director, you're communicating with the DP, because there's a lot more different moving parts, different variables involved in getting a visual effects project finished. I use primarily After Effects, and After Effects is great for both visual effects and motion graphics. After Effects is a compositing program that you use to composite your visual effects. And I have a beginner's PDF guide that you can check out on my website that goes deeper into that, what compositing means and what the different softwares out there. But for me, I like to use After Effects for my compositing, and then I use Cinema 4D for my 3D work, and I use PF Track and Mocha for my motion tracking. And all of these programs I have detailed tutorials on if you're interested in getting into that. Bottom line, what you need to know is that if you're going to be pursuing a career, or if you want to get deeper into motion graphics, then I would recommend that you learn After Effects and Cinema 4D. Those are two of the most commonly used programs for motion graphics in the professional industry. And then if you want to get into hardcore visual effects, After Effects is great, but a lot of people in the major studios aren't using After Effects for visual effects. They're using Nuke, or they're using Flame, or much higher end compositing softwares, which if you want to get into, they can often be very expensive, and you might need to get an internship to actually have the opportunity to learn and use these softwares. After Effects is great if you want to be doing visual effects on your own and don't have the money to buy these multi-$1,000 programs that are designed for top-notch Hollywood visual effects artists. If you're not sure exactly as to which route you want to take in terms of visual effects or motion graphics, I would recommend that you just try them out. Try out different techniques and see what you enjoy most. There's several different fields of visual effects: compositing, animating, there's motion graphics. Some visual effects houses are dedicated completely to achieving effects that you don't even realize are there. When I first started off interning at a visual effects house, most of the work that they did was beauty work. I remember my first day on the job, we had a whole team dedicated to removing one logo on this guy's hat, and we spent all day doing that because on set the production crew didn't realize that this guy had a hat with a logo that couldn't be seen in the music video. And if you were to watch the video, you wouldn't have even realized that we did that. So if you're interested in getting into visual effects, the first thing I would recommend is checking out my beginner's PDF, which is a free download. And it's a great overview of what the visual effects industry looks like and the different softwares that there are out there for you to learn. If you want to get into the program that I use, which is After Effects, I have a basic training that you can download on my website, vfxpro.com. And then I also have other different training programs that will get you deeper and deeper into compositing and animating in After Effects. There are also other great resources on the internet. Video Copilot is a great resource. I learned most of my stuff simply by trying, also from Video Copilot. There's also a website called FX PhD that has a lot of great training out there. People ask often what the best schools are out there for visual effects. I actually never took a single class in college, although I did go to film school, that pertained to visual effects. And everything that I learned in terms of visual effects was either self-taught or done via online tutorials and experience over time, having tried out different techniques on my own, working with other students, working with Zack. With that being said, I don't think that you necessarily need to go to film school in order to learn visual effects. These big studios aren't really concerned with your film degree. I myself still don't even have my film degree, and I've been able to get plenty of jobs for several years now simply based off of the work that I've done and the connections that I've made through working on various projects. There's also a lot to be learned from watching visual effects breakdowns. There's a plethora of content out there if you go onto different visual effects websites that show breakdowns of how these different visual effects artists are achieving these specific effects. So one thing that I would recommend if you don't have specific projects already that you need to work on is find a shot that you saw in a certain video and try and replicate it yourself. I remember a couple years ago, there was this awesome shot that I had seen from I Am Legend where it was this camera moved down over Times Square and it was completely deserted. And so I wanted to try and see if I could replicate that shot, and it took me about a week. But what I did was I researched different techniques that were out there, and then I found a way to just simply take a still image of Times Square, and then I removed all of the people from it and then used projection mapping to add myself into the shot with a 3D move. And it was one of my most proud shots. And it wasn't even done for a specific project. It was done just to push myself in visual effects and learn a new technique. So that concludes the visual effects portion on this training. There's a ton of information to learn in terms of visual effects and motion graphics. If you want to learn a lot more, I have a ton of content on my website, as well as links to other websites that you can use to learn more about visual effects and motion graphics. Take care.